Hello, good evening, how are you? And welcome to the Tessa-Marie show. Today is Thursday evening, so it is a spiritual prosperity night. We are on a challenge with spiritual prosperity. Every day we find it coming our way, and we are looking at it and wondering why spiritual prosperity is so difficult. But it's not. So tonight we're going to talk about the spiritual critic, the holier than thou critic. You know, every day we come across these wonderful, amazing human beings who are so holy that if you could see through them, you would see all the holy holes through them. And these people have so much to say. And some of them, they walk the world like they own the holiness of holies. But there are two types of spiritual critics. There are those that are human. And then there's that magical one that is inbred in us. That critic is the one that is inside of us. We didn't create it. We had absolutely nothing to do with it. We knew nothing about it when we entered planet Earth. But somehow, life, parenting, circumstances, schooling, education, gave us those inbred feelings about spirituality. The thing about this is, we first encountered them before the age of 7. 7 is the age of reason. But before the age of 7, we are already taught all the things that are just not so perfect in this tiny person that is usually not more than 2 feet tall. And we are told of all the wrong things we do. And it's not holy enough. Or we are not holy enough. Or we are not doing the right things before we reach the age of 7. And by the time we get to school, well, guess what? All parents, especially back then, you need to go to school where they will teach you about God, where they will teach you the holy things you need to know, how to behave. And that's what they will do at that school. That's why I'm sending you there. They're strict. And religion is an important part of your education. So off you go. All your enthusiasm, when you enter that school, you leave it the next day and it has left. They have pounded you into the ground. They told you you're a sinner and you don't even know the meaning of the word sinner. They start telling you that you were created in sin. And you don't know what sin is. You dare not go home and tell your parents you were created in sin, because you are so scared of this word sin. The magical thing about it, you can't even spell it. You just know it because they pound it in you today. You were created in sin. So therefore, you already are not good enough. You're not holy enough. You have all these faults already. You're not even 7 years old. So by the time you get to the age of 7, you're going to realize you have to do things to be a good girl, a good boy. Or otherwise, you're going to that place they call hell when you die. No, they never tell you when you're going to die. They don't know if you're going to die tomorrow. But those spiritual critics are in our lives, so early in our lives, that one of the things that they're telling us to do is make sure you know you're not good enough. You're not holy enough to enter the kingdom of heaven. This imaginary place where angels are singing and trumpets are blowing and utopia is there. You are not good enough to enter there, but you're not even 7 years old yet. They sent you to the school. Your parents sent you to the school because they had all these perfect reasons for you to go to the school. So off you went. And the first thing they told you, you were born in sin. And you don't know what sin means. You're not 7 years old, but you're already born in sin. Can you believe that? You cannot go home, as I said, and say to mom and dad, what is sin? They said I was born in sin. Oh no, because you know you're not going to heaven because you're just not perfect. So that is the first critic you get. And this thing is pounded into you, and you dare not have a mind of your own from that day forward. The minute you start to think, somebody older than you, it could be a grandmother, a grandfather, a grandaunt, somebody that is older than you will tell you, you're so bad. And all you say is, I don't want to eat this food. I don't like it. When I eat it, it makes my stomach ache. But you need to eat it, or else you're not going to that place where there is trumpets and angels and perfect people. Because you, right now, by not eating this thing that makes you sick, you're not perfect. So that's the first one you meet. So by the time you become an adult and you continue to grow, you're at the back of your mind, you still have it. But being adventurous, we break the rules, we do things, we grow another way, and we continue like that. But the thing that happens is that outside critic that you got when you were growing up, going to school from the age of 3 or 4, before you were age 7, at the age of reason, has now become an inside critic. As I said in the beginning, there are two of them. They're the outside critics that are constantly telling you how to be, who to be, what to be. And that's what the pillar of spirituality is about. There's different levels, different things. You're not spiritual enough, you are sometimes told. What you mean? You don't go to church, you don't go to temple, you don't go there, you don't go this. You're not spiritual enough. But you have a connection with your maker that is amazing. You have this amazing connection with this maker of yours that you love so much, that you know there is something greater than you that is keeping you going, that is helping that heart of yours beat, and your ability to breathe so effortlessly. So you are ready to believe that. But what has happened to you is that they have put the fear in you that you have to be this. But all the wonderful prophets that becomes the real children of God or the sons of God told you that the price was already paid to you for you to have freedom. But to keep you in the bondage of fear, the spiritual leaders are telling you, you need to be so good, but you're tiny. Give me a chance to think before the age of 7. No. So eventually, that critic becomes you yourself. And that is when we allowed the abuse to take place. That is when we are so scared of breaking the rules that we allowed the abuse to take place. No, those abuses that abuse us are not really outside of us all the time. They did their job years ago. They told us we were not perfect. We are not like those saints. We're not going to heaven. This heaven that we can only go to when we're stiff and dead. As a physical body, but your spiritual soul, that thing, is going to have to go not to heaven because you didn't do good thing in that physical body here on earth. It is so confusing. I remembered it. I remember all of it. I went to the school that taught you all of it. And I remembered all of it. And I would come home and I would ask my mom about it. And she would explain. My mom was different. And she would explain and she said, all of that is not true. And that is the day she said to me once, you need to take that Bible up and all the holy books you can find, she said, and read them. She said, read the Sanskrit, read the Torah, read the Quran, read all of these books, the holy books, read the papers that are written on these books in the different religions. And you will see, she said, they all have a line. And it's the same line. And that book is not telling you you're not perfect. Those books do not tell you that. They tell you that you were created in the image of this amazing person. But to keep you under control and to make you behave, they need to put the fear of God in you. And she said, I found that out by digging, by learning, and reading papers. And she said, the nice thing about it, they were all in the school. So she said, go read them all. and inspire yourself. And then she said, take a bit from all of them and respect each and every religion, because they have the same line and the story is amazing. And if you get something in the Hindu religion that helps you, hug it. If you find something in Muslim, hug it. And she said, go on and look at it, because when you put them all together, you will find the perfect spot for you. Oh, wow, I must have been around 12 because it was just bothering me. So I meet people who have the inner critic in them. That critic, they didn't have the kind of mother. I remembered, my mother was funny. One day, we were all sitting together, a couple of us, my siblings and I, and we were chatting, and she came from the bakery. Like, we were sitting in the backyard of the sea, on the seawall, and the Caribbean Sea was our beach. Our house was over there, the bakery there, and there she is. She said, what are you guys doing? It was Saturday. And she said, I said, we're making up sins. And she said, what? I said, well, we have to go to confession, so we're making up our sins, what we're going to tell the priest that we did wrong. She said, what? She said it again. She said, no. She said, that's the end of it. No more confession. If you feel you have to make up a story to tell the priest, maybe you're not getting that information right. From now on, no more confession. So we hadn't got to go to confession anymore. Because we all had to be matched to church as a family. So anyway, that was the beginning and the end of confession. That was the end of our confession life, and it just went down the line to all 9 of us never bothered doing it. So anyway, the reason I'm bringing this up, this spiritual critic, is that spiritual critic, I hear it all the time. I hear it a lot. I remembered, it's spiritual criticism is so powerful that it's like a story. I remembered when Teddy Kennedy died, a cousin of mine is watching the news with another cousin. There are 3 of us, 2 sisters and I. And this older one, who is perfectly born again, said, I hope he got to know the Lord. And I said, what? And she said, I hope he got to know the Lord before he died. And I said, which Lord? She said, the God of heaven. And I said, and if he didn't meet him, I said, where was he supposed to go meet him? And she looked at me. I said, you said he got to know the Lord. I said, in order to know somebody, you have to meet them. So who are you talking about? And of course she realized where I was going, because I was just so adamant. I said, these people, the Kennedys, they kind of own their own church. You're in Catholic Church. So if you are the born-again Christian who was Catholic and became a born-again Christian, and all of a sudden you're holier to the point that you are saying, in other words, she continued, and if he didn't get to know the Lord, he's not going to heaven. And I go, whoa, and who told you that? And she said, you have to know the Lord. I said, you were Catholic. And now you are born again Christian. And all of a sudden you are a critic. You don't even know this human being. He has not set eyes on you. You only know him because he's a celebrity and very rich. That's what you know about him. And everything that he did that is publicized. But you don't know his heart. And here you are criticizing this human being. And then she said, God will be good for you. That's what she told me. I said, I hope so. I am the worst person for you to talk to, because remember something? I only hear words. So she said, God will be really good for you. I said, what is he going to do with me? I said, what is he going to be good for? I said, he's already good for me. God is already good for me. So you being my critic, or my spiritual critic, is not explaining this story right. And I said to her, I know the books of the Bible. I can recite them from one book to the last Revelation. I said, I know them all, and I know them in order. So there is nowhere in this book it said that God was going to be good for me, meaning that God would punish me. I said, the Old Testament is one thing. Then they said Jesus came and he said, It's no longer an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. It's love. And I said, you don't even believe in the Old Testament since you became born again anyway. So it's the New Testament. So Jesus is good for you, going to be perfect. You are perfect for Jesus. But I and Teddy Kennedy and everybody like that are not born again, God is going to be good for us in the sense that you mean he's punishing us. And she looked at me and she said, yes. I said, well, I'll tell you something. I believe, and that is what I believe, and I will stand on it every day. There is no way, if you believe in a God, whichever religion you believe in, and that God said, I paid the price for your freedom, and you expect me to pay the price again, then you have something coming. So that's what I told her. I said, that God you worship, he told me he paid the price. I don't have to pay the price. Whatever I do, he paid the price. He only asked me to follow the golden rule. Treat everyone as you want to be treated. He did not even say like. He said, as you want to be treated. So when I told her that, she looked at me and she said, you're just too much. And that's what everybody talks about me. But I purposely seek to read and to learn. I love learning. And I ask questions. So the spiritual critics out there will tell you, you don't pray or you pray too much. And they will tell you, someone wants to abuse you. And I mean, people abuse you in several different ways. They can abuse you mentally, they can abuse you physically, emotionally, spiritually, of course, and financially. They can wreck your 5 pillars of prosperity by abusing you. So they abuse you by making you feel guilty if you don't give them your money. They'll tell you, I thought you were a good Christian. I thought you were a good Muslim. I thought you were a good Hindu. I thought you were a prayerful person. Why aren't you giving me more money? I need your money. So they make you feel guilty because you are a person of faith. They make you feel guilty because they believe that because you're a person of faith, they can do whatever they want to you and you should just keep turning the other cheek. But the point of it, you only have 2 of those chicks. And if you keep getting blows on them and slaps on them and punches on them, very soon you are no use to not even to yourself. But they will tell you, I had that experience. I had it from somebody who wanted me to allow them, I gave them a chance. And the chance was for 9 months. And then they wanted 9 more months or whatever, who knows how many. And I said, no, your time is up. And they said, for somebody like you that is so spiritual and praying like you shouldn't be like that. And I said, excuse me, you are abusing the ability, the right I gave you. I gave you an opportunity and you are taking it to another level. You're abusing it, but you're using my conscience of God and human beings, how I treat others and what I believe in, to tell me I should let you do whatever you want to do. And I shouldn't stop you. Because I am a spiritual being, or I'm a prayerful person, or I go to church, or I worship. And that is what those critics do. The spiritual critics will crush you that way. They'll tell you, you have to let me do whatever I want to do with you, or at you, because you are a spiritual being. And it's okay, you should be turning the cheek. So that means, if somebody is stomping on your toe and your toe is now swelling, you don't have a right to say, get off my feet. That's what they're telling you. When they say to you, well, that shouldn't bother you. That shouldn't bother you. And that is, or they'll turn it around and say, well, you didn't pray. That's why you never went to church and pray. So that's why you don't have a husband today. Or you don't pray. How you expect to have a good life? You didn't lend your friend the money, although you're so spiritual, and how and why? That's why you don't have a friend anymore. And then it's even worse because then you have the pastors that are telling you, if you don't give me all your money, you're not going to heaven. But I need to pay my bills. I have to pay my rent, my mortgage. I have to feed my children. But you are deciding for me how much I should give you when I do not have that amount. I cannot give you 10%. I could perhaps give you 1%. But I'm scared. And honestly, you will not believe, I have had people come to the bank and they're talking to me and they're behind in their mortgage. They're behind on their credit card payments. But they did send the money to the pastor. Because God said you have to give. But that same God said to you, render to Caesar what is Caesar and to God what is his own. So the spiritual critics will get you so upset. They'll frighten you into doing things you do not want to do. And that is one of the reasons you have to know. And this is why I chose tonight to talk to you about the spiritual critics. Some of them are embedded in you from childhood. You were born in sin. You're going to go to hell when you die or whatever. You are already a sinner. I am not 7 years old yet. What I come home confused. Why am I a sinner, Mom and Dad? And they look at you like you're not a sinner. You're just a little girl, a little boy. But at school they said I was born in sin, and what does sin mean? And you don't know you're 7. You have no idea. But they have pumped it into you for so many years that you're walking on eggshells and looking for a sin because you don't want to cross that path at all. Heaven and hell, apparently hell is not a nice place. There's fire and you're going to burn. And it just goes on. So the spiritual critics put those things in you from the time you were tiny. It's not at home. It starts at school. Then you might find, like my cousin who was much older than me, telling me she hopes that a person she doesn't know gets to know the Lord before he goes to heaven. And looking at me because I'm standing up to her and tell her it's nonsense you're talking. She said, God will be good for you. And I said, who is he? In the meantime, this God she's talking about had told me already, according to the book she's reading, that you are created in the image and likeness of me. Image and likeness of this God. So, I look like God. I'm created in his image and likeness. My ways are his. And then these are the people that goes down on their knees to pray, to ask God to make a person bend another human being to suit their needs and their purposes. And God will not do that because he created them in the image and likeness of me. That's what those books are saying. So those critics are so confusing. I just hope God gets him to change his mind. I'm praying to God for that. So, and when people tell that to me, because of the coaching I do, I listen to this, it's sends marbles going through my head. My brain is saying, do something, Tessa-Marie, do something. And no, he's not going to change his creation because you found fault with it. No, you can only change yourself, and that is an act that you have to perform yourself. What you do not like in that human being, then it's too bad because that was how they were created. And you're not going to force another human being to change because you want them to be changed. And you can cover yourself with ashes and wear sackcloth and prostrate yourself on the floor asking for this human being to be changed. It won't. You have to change you. You have to learn to accept me and you and I for exactly who we are. If you do not like the environment, the energy coming from me, you, then move away. You don't have to be with that person. In the holy books, it tells you that person causes you vexatious of your spirit. You move away. You don't have to be there. But to ask the created God that you believe in, and maybe that person doesn't quite believe it, to change his heart. And you hear that so often. Make them better. Make them to like me. I'm praying to God to change that man to be a better man. But that is the man he created in his image and his likeness. Leave him alone. And that is all you have to do. And that's the woman that she is. You don't like her ways, then you change, modify it if you want to be there yourself. We have to become the change we want. That's what Gandhi said. That's what all of these men said. They were inspired differently than us. You cannot pray to God to change his own creation, except if you're you. And then you still have to do the work. So the bad things in that person, is that part of God? The good things in that person, is that part of God? The talents you have in that person. When you criticize me because I am not able to sing like you, who are you criticizing? That's the question you have to ask yourself. So when you are the critic of that other person standing there and saying, oh, you're so ugly, you're so short, you don't have a nice voice, or you're stupid, you're this, you're that. Guess what? Who are you criticizing? The maker of that person, the creator of that person? That's who you're criticizing. You're saying, oh, when you made me, you're a perfect specimen. But when you made Tessa-Marie over here, you messed up, didn't you? That's what you're saying when you criticize that human being. So the inner critic is inbred. But we have those outside critics that want us to be the version of their vision of us. And we cannot be anybody's version of the vision of us. The only version of the vision is the one we want to create, we want to change. We can change ourselves. I did that. I was shy, reserved, it's pompous to a point because that was the way I was raised. I had to talk a certain way. I had to walk a certain way. Women in our family, you don't cry in public. You don't shout, and you have decorum. That's what's expected of us. Shillingford. Shillingfords don't behave like that. But Shillingfords can stay in Dominica and stay like this. But when you come to Canada and you need to survive, you need to change the shit. You need to change things around and say, I cannot walk like Miss Prim and Proper because they're going to crush me. So you can change you. But you cannot be a spiritual critic of people and tell them, since you pray so much, you should be able to take what I give you and shut up because you're a spiritual praying human being. That is wrong. Do not let people abuse you spiritually. And you don't drop that inbred feeling that you're not good enough. You have sins and you're not perfect. You will not go to heaven because you're not perfect. That you have all these faults. And therefore you're not good enough to get into that realm of angels and saints. But you are an angel. You are a spiritual being. Men can modify. They can put two sperms and the eggs together and fertilize. And that's as far as they can go. They need a vessel to create. They need a human. So that energy is theirs. They got it. They learned it. But they still cannot modify the colors of everything. They're still on a track. And maybe they will be allowed to create one day because really, we have the same ability as God to create. Because that's what he said. You are made in the image and likeness of me. Therefore, what he can do, you should be able to do. Some things take longer. But you have to sit there and create that person you're seeking inside of you. Not the husband or the wife or the significant other that you don't like specific things about them. And the one that you want to abuse, and because they pray, you tell them, because you are praying, you should let me beat you up. Because you're praying, you should pay my bills for me. Because you're always in church, you should give me without asking for it back. Because you're always in church, you should feed the poor and never stop. Because you're always in church, you should give me money so I can buy a brand new Lamborghini because I'm your pastor and wear Prada shoes. And as a matter of fact, I need an airplane. That is what one pastor said to his family, to his congregation in America. You do not want your pastor to fly on commercial. I need my plane, until it went viral and he had to take it back. That is spiritual abuse. And you don't let people talk to you like that. So spiritual critics, some of them are implanted in us, and we become the spiritual critic of ourselves. We stop, we let people do things to us that we know is wrong, because we want to be, we think we should just turn the other cheek. Let them slap you one more time. And it's not always slapping physically. Let them emotionally tell you you're not good enough. Let them emotionally tell you that because of you, this is going wrong. Let them say, well, you know, the God you believe said you should give. I need money from it, and you have to give me. You're because you are a praying person. You believe in God. And these are the things they do to you. So emotional critics, some we didn't come on earth with it. It usually starts at school, the spiritual critics. And then it becomes we believing we are not good enough to do big, good things. We are not holy enough. So we are constantly seeking to be better and holy enough so we can get it. Yet I believe that when you get to whatever they call it, the pearly gates or heaven, he's not going to, or he or she, is not going to say to you, give you a list of all the things you did wrong. I know that. I know. You know what you're going to say to us? I believe that if there is a conversation that transpires, is what they're going to say is, you were given all these opportunities and chances. Why didn't you take them? Why didn't you go and do something you wanted? You looked at it. The opportunity was there to try, to buy a house of your own, to drive this fabulous car. You had the money, you had the yearning, you could plan for it. You could live a life of freedom. You didn't have to cheat, but you had this opportunity. Why didn't you try? And that is why one of the spiritual nights, I will talk about the white boxes with the royal blue bow. So sending you light and joy. I hope you